I come from a very, very strong family of women. They're actually notorious, actually. You must be a Naranjo woman. Nora Naranjo Morse, who is my grandmother's younger sister, she is an amazing artist. I mean, breaking the boundaries of what a Pueblo woman is and what that means and her conceptual approach to things. My grandmother, Rena Swenzel, is an amazing, basically, philosopher. She's an intelligent woman who has shown me the depth of conversation we can have about spirituality and about culture and about our relationship to place, history, future. My mother, Roxanne Swenzel, who is just one of the hardest working people I've ever met. She built her house out of adobe bricks. To see a woman with that kind of empowerment to change what you believe is possible for a woman to do. You know, she's under the car fixing it. She's wielding the chainsaw, you know what I mean? She's out there cutting down trees and meanwhile making a living from her artwork and being brave enough to do the thing that people hadn't done before. And it's really propelled me in a whole new way of creating, including my new interest in fashion. And fashion comes from performance art and my interest in cars even. So it's not about the product, but how you go through the world. And those things that we use, our utilitarian objects, is an aesthetic experience. So I come from Española, lowrider capital of the world. Of course I love cars, you know, and that's an aesthetic. That's an art experience. I love that aesthetic. I love bolts and gears and casts and things in metal, and to this day it feels like a more honest approach to me if I bring in that part of myself. Arts culture is very much a community. It really is. It has its own language, it has its own values, its own morals, and it's very different than traditional Pueblo culture. And straddling that line between those and trying to understand how I can pull those together, because I love both of them, and to find that common ground that I exist in, that I walk. And so that's been my challenge and my journey and my adventure. My culture informed my intention to build relationship. Contemporary art world gave me a language and the skill set in order to communicate with people from all over the world and from many walks of life. Innately, that's related to being a Pueblo woman, you know, to being from Santa Clara, Pueblo.
My first fashion shows I imagined as a child where I was like all of a sudden climbing up the slide out on the playground, and this was second grade. I completely remember like clothing that was so beautiful and flowing going off of the slide and being in a beautiful silk flowing dress, because I knew of my culture to be so alive and vibrant. I grew up on Canyon Road and at Taos Pueblo. My mother and father had opened up a gallery downtown Santa Fe, so my mother was the first Native American gallery owner in Santa Fe. So I was not only raised around, you know, culture at the Pueblo and dances and ceremony, I was raised around these vibrant, upcoming artisans that were going to change the paths of Native American art. The creativity was bursting. With all this diversity at a very young age, I knew that the world had so many options. There was so much possibility for me to be able to experiment with whatever I wanted to do. And there was no way I was going to limit myself at all. And so it was really important for me to make a vehicle, make a garment, make something that people could use and wear that gave them self-empowerment. I want that female energy that's respected in our culture. Even before the show, I said a prayer with all the models. They said, never has any designer ever said a prayer with us before we go out on the runway. But that prayer was to tell them to take care of themselves and to continue to be beautiful, and that I was thankful that they had brought beauty to my show. When I did Project Runway, One of my favorite pieces in the collection is I did this aspen tree bark. The traditional part is the appreciation for nature. I love going out in nature. The way the palette and textures constantly change, and it grounds you and it makes you humble.
I grew up listening to Yellow Men, and my favorite song was, "Girl, you can't do what the boys do and still be a lady."
Oh girl, you can do what the guy do, you know, and still be a lady.
Yes, I can. So I'm the CEO, majority owner of Avanyu General Contracting. How's the ground today, Rudy?
Pretty good. This is the fifth one.
Fifth one, all right, moving good. Yeah, I came to bring you $1 million check. Avanyu General Contracting is a Native American women-owned construction company. We specialize in residential building, light commercial, sustainable building, and weatherization. We do a lot of rehabilitation, modernization projects, and are skilled in historic preservation work. We've spent the last 3 years in Okewinge doing that type of work in the plaza there, where everything happens, where the people come together for dances, and that's where our life is. And being able to bring that sense of community back is an honor. Today is my daughter Sage's 10-year birthday party. It's wonderful to be celebrating because my daughter is now in the double digits. This is just one part of what we get together for. Today it's celebrating and honoring a birthday. In a few months it'll be getting together to celebrate feasts. Having them around the kiva, having them around when we're baking, having them be there and participate in those things is hopefully going to empower them in themselves that, oh, I have this alternative because I do have this belief system. It's just participating because it's in your heart.
Shiprock. I am one of your thousands of children who will always honor your dark blue silhouette that is surrounded by the flat land, the shallow San Juan River. Did that come across okay?
When I began to teach, it didn't occur to me to separate the way that I taught from the way that I live my life or the way that I think.
Thank you.
When I start teaching my classes, I introduce myself in Navajo, and I tell my students stories about what the spoken word means, what language means to us in Navajo, and then what it means to me as a professor when they write. I was raised in a fairly traditional Navajo household. I would be at ceremonies, and there's rituals where you sit up all night and the medicine men pray and they sing. And I began to think about how rhythmic their prayers were and how beautiful they were. And then I would look at Western literature, particularly like works of John Donne and Yeats, and I saw the same kind of beauty. I realized that my tradition is still alive. The round roof hogan is like a woman's tiered skirt. It is said that the mother, Amma, is the heart of the home. It is said that there is beauty within when a home is as it should be. Beauty extends from the hagan. Beauty extends from the woman. 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 I write to capture a moment in time and to sort of preserve certain kinds of memories. Maybe it's like making bread outside over an open fire, or going to a ceremony and watching people dance, and listening to people sing, or listening to people tell stories. And I think poetry is the perfect way to preserve moments such as that. When they told me that I had been selected as the first poet laureate of the Navajo Nation, mostly it was a validation of my parents' teachings, all the attention, all the care they put into, like, teaching me to be a good person, to be a good Navajo woman. Deciding upon a poet laureate for the Navajo Nation is asserting Navajo sovereignty and saying we too have a nation and we have a strong literary tradition.
Women are the keepers of the culture, and with their courage and with their knowledge, the culture will survive.
We always talk about in Tewa this notion of sigi kandi, which is this notion of love, care, and respect. And that those are really the tools that my parents and my grandmother instilled on me. She talked about this compassion. She talked about having this passion for love. And if you have that inherent in you, everything manifests from there.
Just to know that that inner strength that we have is very powerful. That along with prayer is very powerful. Our determination is very powerful.
My advice to Native American women is that it's possible. And if this girl from the res can be a lawyer and a legislator, then they can do whatever they want to do.
I got lucky. I got lucky to be a Pueblo woman and to grow up that way because it offered me that already. My neural pathways were already created to say you can.
All my relatives, my family, they're all there with me in spirit. The words I teach with are the words that they taught me with. 1,000 voices then is reflected in one voice. My family, they're all there with me in spirit. The words I teach with are the words that they taught me with. 1,000 voices then is reflected in one voice.